What do you think of when you think back, why did I do that? Well, my friend Mike Bossy is here asking the same question of his past and how it relates to my past. And Mike Bossy is the founder of the BNG Group, the Bossy Nagy Group, a local accounting firm in Tillsonburg, Ontario. And we've known each other for a long time, and I consider him a friend and a mentor, and he's helped me with my entrepreneurial journey too. And Mike, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for the invite, Andre. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because, hey, we're both on a journey of some kind, and we're constantly trying to improve our personalities, I guess, for lack of better words. But, there's always something new to learn. I think it was 2008?
2008. I think it's the first time we met at a Business After 5 event.
Yeah, do the math on that. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to do the math in my head, but it's a long period of time, and it's gone by quickly. So that just means we're probably having a lot of fun on each of our journeys that causes us for time to go by so quickly. Now, growing up as a kid, I was born and raised on a tobacco farm, and that might be a swear word today, but it was a great experience. But my dad and I wouldn't say we argued, but we had some different approaches to how we approached farming. And I can remember one event in particular where my dad could never understand when I got so much pleasure out of irrigating tobacco. And it was usually like a 4-day thing, 24 hours a day. And in hindsight, I can say the reason it was is because engines were running out of gas, and pipes are blowing up, wild animals would run out in the middle of the night. The sky, when you looked up in it, was this artwork that God created it was just amazing, and I thrived on that. And it got so ingrained in me. That was a great thing. My dad used to second me to other farmers to help them with their irrigation. But I sit there and wondering, and it was later in life when I took my Colby-A index, and I just had this big aha moment that I was an initiating quick start. I was reasonably of intelligence, so school was easy. I never could figure out why I waited for the project or waited to study till 9 o'clock before the
Just to clarify to the listeners and the viewers, quick start is how the person handles risk and uncertainty, and he has a higher threshold for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So once I saw that, I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting stuff. So it sort of explains a lot of the things that happened to me. Growing up on the farm, there's unwritten rules, and I'm kind of working on a book that's involved. It's called the Family Participation Plan. But who gets to come home to the farm, or who gets to be involved with the founder's business? And so growing up, there were certain things that we were told. Obviously, there was a vision for the farm. There was core values and beliefs as a family. My dad and mom always said, hey, you guys all have to go to university because we never got a chance, and you have to go. You can't come back until you have that degree. You have to work 3 years for someone else that's not a farmer. And if you do come back, you better have some ideas about what we're going to do to make more money, because we're not going to turf the hired man who's been there, forever while you've been fooling around trying to figure out what you want to do. So I knew I had to go to university. So, but I picked my university because I could make the basketball team, and that lasted all of 4 games and blew my knee out. And I went home to my father and I said, Dad, this basketball thing's not working out. He said, you do know there's a lot of 6-foot guys around? And I said, yeah, I'm not going to the NBA. And I said, so what should I be? He says, well, why don't you be an accountant? You're good in math. They make a lot of money, and they don't work very hard. So when you're 19, you're kind of going, hey, that sounds pretty good. But the whole time that's going on, I'm struggling in my stomach. It doesn't feel right. I had the smarts for it. I got my CPA, and then within a week of getting that piece of paper, I quit and started my own business. And then I found out, I don't have a business plan. I don't have any clients, which is kind of hard on the cash flow. So all of a sudden I figured out, I got to figure out how to get clients, and I all of a sudden turned into promotion and came up with some simplification things that would happen, and I kept trying them on check writers.
So you were starting out without a partner. You're just starting up on your own.
Just starting up on my own. So Yeah, no partner. I mean, it was the partnership I was in wasn't a typical accountant thing, was cost allocation, so it was on my own. And so I built a practice and took some more risks. If I met somebody and I thought their elevator went to the top, I'd hire them and figure out what I was going to do with them after I hired them. And they wouldn't necessarily be an accountant as such. It'd be somebody that, I don't know, had good managerial skills or had connections, and then I'd create a product that they could work on. It's like, I forget, just probably a strategic coach concept, but somebody had to make it up, somebody had to make it real, and somebody had to make it repeat.
Recur. Yep.
Yeah. So, I was fortunate enough to find those buddies.
So you're really referring to you were the entrepreneur mindset to just create something new and move forward, which
Correct.
I think your quick start helped at the same time. But what I'm noticing too on my side is I think a lot of people have an entrepreneurial mindset, and it's not just an entrepreneur or business owner. I think there's different types. It's just what's next, what can we do more? And that's like a higher achiever thing. Like you started with one person, now you've got a firm of what, 30,
I think we're
45?
58 now.
58 now.
Yeah.
And why not just stop at 2, right? Because what was your drive?
Well, I think what happens as entrepreneurs, we all tell ourselves a lie when we get started. And
What lie is that?
The lie is, I can remember mine being two things in what I lied to myself about was, one is, if I make $100,000 a year, I'll have it made.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and the
Yeah.
second lie was, and there's a little building in Tillsonburg, and I still drive by it, and I sort of laugh, and it was where I had my first bank account, and it was for sale. And if it ever came for sale, I was going to buy it, because if I could fill that up with people, I'd really have it made. Well, the space we have now is like probably 20, 25 times the space that was in that building. So it was a lie. And so then when you think back, how did that happen? Like, why did you do that? And
So limiting lies, almost.
Yes, they were.
Limiting lies.
Right.
Okay.
All of a sudden you become a lifestyle
Yeah.
CPA, right? I thought that was the thing, but I need to constantly be in front of people trying to simplify their lives and bringing new ideas, and then find the people to implement behind me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it's growing.
And I think that's one of the things I really respect about Mike is the constant self-improvement, self-discovery, self-growth. I think that's where we really connect, and that's what I really appreciate about you. There's always something new to learn and another opportunity to grow. When we talked to Doug Brackman, the guy who wrote Driven, he's saying a lot of driven entrepreneurs or driven people is they're accused of not being satisfied ever. And it's not that we're never satisfied. There's always something better. There's always something across, there's a thicker grass on the other side of the hill. So what happens if we try a little harder? And that's where I think a lot of the entrepreneurial high achievers is we fall into the thing. But to do that, you have to be constant growth.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's if somebody recommends a book to me or an article, I always read it.
Or a coaching program.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in journaling, because if I'm reading something, on the one side of the page is the idea that the author may be talking about, but on the left side is where I do my thinking, about my thinking. Dan Sullivan quote. It's where I put quotes that I might use in a presentation, later on. When I blog, everything seems to connect in 3, and I tie different ideas to. So it's just this constant, never-ending improvement. Of course, that's always been one of my core values and beliefs is that we got to be constantly improving. Like, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and all my siblings are retired. And I find I don't have anything to talk to them about, because they're not growing. And
They're happy where they're at, and that's
Right.
it. Yeah.
And you try to have a conversation, and they're talking about things that they don't have, they want, somebody else has and shouldn't. They may be talking about thoughts that aren't their own. Mm-hmm. And, there's just no learning. So there's no stimulation in that.
No, and I think when you just said when people just keep talking about what they want, I have a hard time with that, because if I want it, I just go do it to be able to do it.
Yeah,
get it, right?
You never have to explain a want.
Yeah.
You just want it, right?
And not be ashamed or guilt driven to that you achieved it. Yeah, like for me, when I started the engineering company, that company was stagnant. They were happy where they're at. I helped them bring it to a certain level that they were happy, and I wanted more. I just didn't realize what it was, and it was a big blow up, and I just decided that's it. I'm out. I'm gonna go try something different. And like you, have an idea. I had an idea how to run the business because I kind of use that engineering company as my experiment.
Yes.
So I learned on their dime.
Well, it's extreme market research, right?
Yeah.
That's what that is. Yeah.
But at the end, it was still going out and going, oh crap, there's all this. I can't just do revenue work, generating work. I got to run a business. I got to do the bookkeeping, the insurance. And then the biggest lesson I got was just because you got along good with those clients with the other company, I found the good clients stayed with the company because they were comfortable with that reputation. And no matter how well, like I worked with one guy for 10 years, and he says, I would love to go with you, but you're technically unstable because I don't know if you're going to be around a couple of years, and we have a reputation here. But that just hit me the other night when you told me about the topic of this. The ones that did follow, the majority were all narcissists. They manipulated and used me to help me move forward, and it became a quid pro quo, and then to the point where I wasn't making a lot of money, and it became a game of,
what's in it for me,
what's it not for you. Is what I got.
And I mean, too, when you're in the hourly profession, it becomes a bit of a chase, right?
Yeah.
And you pretend you like people. I got over that quite early. If they didn't fit my core values and beliefs, I created a filter that I used, and if they didn't fit my core values and beliefs, and I didn't think I could help them, and you kind of filtered them out early. But when you start a business, if you put a mirror under their nose and it fogs up, you take them on as a client, and then you pay for it later. So there's a lot of things I learned that I'm trying to help people to shortcut some of the, not mistakes, but learn from the errors I made or the small things. And I was thinking about this last night again, because I sold most of the business to to other partners that are in the firm now, and I started another little company. But I got thinking about it when I was doing the work. I always had an executive assistant, and I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
And it's not just, the best one I had was also dealing with my personal stuff and my business stuff, and I haven't had that. And then when I sold the practice, like the stool got taken out from under my legs. If you look at the three stool, and I'll tie it back to what I said earlier, but somebody had to make it up. Well, that was me, and I had somebody make it real and somebody make it repeat. Yep. 2 legs of that 3-leg stool have been cut off, and so now I'm helping them still at the firm, but I'm kind of spinning it, and I throw an idea out, and I know the rule around our place is not to listen to Mike's ideas when he's talking out loud, make him come back with defining what success might look like. But I find I'm spinning when in that environment, so there'll be a change again that I'm going to have to make.
I remember a long time ago reading that your first hire should be an assistant or an executive assistant. And I remember saying, that's bullshit. That makes no sense. They don't make any revenue. They don't do anything. You just got to, blah, blah, blah. Well, 15, 17 years later, hire an assistant first. Why? Because they can do the stuff while you're making money.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, it's like, in my world, if you said there's a stereotype of an accountant, and there is, everything's a cost. Nothing's an investment. So an executive assistant is a cost.
Yeah.
And I watch my partners now, and they don't have assistants. They are the assistant. They're booking their own appointments.
It's all about freeing up your energy and time to have the proper energy to be creative, to get more work as well.
And you always think, too, like, don't share them. Don't share the assistant.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be dedicated to you and your family.
So what's the other big lesson you learned over these 10 plus years of entrepreneurship that you've had?
Well, something that's really worked for me, if I get a random call and someone says, can I take you for lunch? And I don't know them, I'll go. But I go on the condition, I tell them, I don't know you, but hopefully I'll learn something. And eventually I do. And I tuck those little things in my brain. I think you can relate to this because I did this to you at one of our client
Events.
center of influence
Yeah,
events that
yeah.
we had here in Ingersoll, and I introduced you to Keith Trussler, a lawyer,
Yeah.
and you sort of had something in common. And I do that with people. If you don't know him or her, and I introduce you, and then I walk away, and then you two end up doing business together, that is the biggest pleasure. I do that for free all day long, and I don't have to monetize that.
Right.
But that's what I'm always doing, is because if I meet somebody, I want to understand what they talk about, what they have, what they, maybe they can simplify my life, but they definitely may be able to simplify someone else's life if I just get them connected.
The other big lesson I got from you too, we went to another event. It was not one of your events. It was some sort of chamber event where he's like, okay, I'm just going to go get something. I'll meet you at that table there. So I go sit at that table, and you're at a different table. We already know each other. Why do we have to sit together at that event, was your reply. But that was a good way to be able to network with other people. So a lot of tricks.
I used that with my the junior team members at the office. I drag them along to whatever, and I say, I'm going to be introducing you to 2 people, and then you're on your own. Mm-hmm. Well, what do I do? And I go, well, here's a book on working the pond. Read that before you go and pick 3 things in there to try. And if you don't know what to do for sure, just stand in the middle of the room, and then you get to meet everybody. And I've been in a lot of situations where I don't know anybody in the room, but I'll go find them.
Yeah.
Because there's somebody in that room that's thinking like you are.
Well, I gotta say that's one of the things I really respect about you. You can play the room, or not play the room. Sorry, I correct that. Is like you're able to just go and talk to people, and I don't think it's only a quick start thing. It's something else that I don't know. Like for me, everyone tells me I'm a very social person, but if I go in a room full of not knowing a lot of people, I'm a lot more reserved, and I just don't know what to say or not to say because, you're the listener, ADHD person, you've always been told you're saying the wrong things all the time, and it gets a little more reserved. So what kind of recommendation would you have someone to say to just start a cold conversation? That's not, how's the weather?
Well, I am Canadian, so I would always ask you how the weather is. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, I just walk up to people, and where you're from is kind of like a lame one as well. That's like asking about the weather. But I tend to start out.
But we can get things out of that. Yeah.
Who do you work for,
yeah.
or who are you with, and what services or products do you have? Can you tell me a little bit about them? And then right away I pick up a couple things that they either have their elevator speech done or ready, or they don't. Now all of a sudden I can help them.
Right.
I now have a point where I've just identified a weakness that you can't respond to a question about what you do in a way that grabs me. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's so much information in the world to accumulate, and so humans put everything in silos. Silos are called stereotypes. 90% of the time people are exactly like that silo they just got put in. So I always try and encourage people, be the 10%. So
yeah.
Be the 10% that isn't like the stereotype, and work on that. But the elevator pitch, I mean, that's I've done a lot of elevator pitches for people, like to write them, just to help them out, especially a younger person. Mm-hmm. And then it's sort of like eventually they come back, they become a client, they become whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, what goes around comes around sooner or later. I think that's one of the things that you do well is you keep connecting people, and it comes around, right? Yeah. So the other thing I'm really hearing too from you is with your entrepreneurial journey, quick start, and high achieving mindset, growth mindset, is it's not just about you, it's about everyone, how everyone else can grow. Because I think if someone says, oh, how can I grow, and that's it, we're selfish.
Yeah. But that's a core value and belief I got from growing up, was that.
Well, that was, yeah.
Like, on my Zoom wall back at the office, like one of the quotes I have, it's a funny thing. We started off talking about irrigation, but there's a picture of a tobacco crop being irrigated, and I put the quote from my dad about putting back more than you take.
Right.
And that's ingrained in me, and I don't mean writing a check. It's doing things for your community, or it's helping a person simplify their life.
He's like Schwarzenegger said, the best advice he got from his dad was just be useful.
Yeah, well, there you go.
If you don't know what to do, just be useful.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the entrepreneurial world, either it's cultural training from the past or the entrepreneurial world, the majority is selfish. And for me, I have a hard time dealing with that. If someone's very selfish and don't care, robbing you or manipulating you, I have a hard time letting that go. But that's the reality of it. But honestly, if you just start saying, hey, that's not who I want to hang out with, this is the type of people I want to, and start looking for them, they just start popping up all over the place.
There's a spot in your brain where you have to park that stuff where people have cheated you, mistreated you, just looking after themselves. You put that in that special spot in your brain, and you lock the door. Mm-hmm. And over time and over a career, happens many a times. I'm not saying it. I would take revenge, but later on, when they come around, they need something again. I'd remind them what happened before.
You return on integrity in that case. Eh?
Yeah. So is that the?
That's something I read somewhere.
Is that a book I should read somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it plays back, but I always give people a second chance, because maybe they've learned, your past, you're a believer in that the only thing that's real is what's today. The past is not real, because it's all made up, because I think I was a hell of a basketball player, but that's in my mind.
Yeah.
I wasn't that good. And the future, of course, is made up, but it's only what's now. So, and if I can learn, why can't that person who did something inappropriate or whatever to me or with me or why can't we learn from that? They can learn. If I can learn, they can learn. So that's why I don't hold grudges, but I do park those things in a special spot in my brain.
Well, you have to. If you wouldn't be human if you didn't.
Oh, no.
But you say close the door, but for me, what I've done is actually creates new boundaries. It's a boundary now that I set, but that's set on what I learned there. I always seem to find more newer complications, but to me, I always say, as long as I'm finding bigger problems, continually finding new problems, I'm growing.
Wasn't it, I forget how that saying went with somebody else's problem. There's money in people's problems. That's what that is. Now, it's not about the money. The money follows, but solving people's problems is
Yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people focus on the money first.
Yeah.
What money am I going to get before I do something for you?
Yeah.
That's conditional. But like I said, there is a specific smaller minority of people that think like you do, and they will pop up if you just start looking for it. And actually, once I start setting the boundaries of I'm not accepting these types of relationships or spending time with them, everyone else seems to be popping up.
We made a comment earlier about the ADHD and saying, don't say that. Mm-hmm. Okay? And why is that? It's not just in that world. It's in the entrepreneurial world, too.
It's everywhere in our lives,
always, don't say that. Don't do that. I mean...
Or there's a general rule you're supposed to follow for manipulators to let manipulate you.
We'll decide what's hate speech, or we'll decide what you can say. There's no, I'm not sure, can't remember exactly where I was going with this point, mm-hmm. but everything can be said, and then you just, take that as a raw material. And I like hanging around entrepreneurial people, because I've often thought I was weird. Mm-hmm. Right? I had team members in my career that said, "You're the smartest person I ever met, and I can't keep up."
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that's weird. And it's a bit of a, it hurts when they say that. But then on the other hand, I like being around entrepreneurs because
we're all weird.
We accept it.
It's the norm.
Yeah.
But it's like Dan Sullivan told me, so maybe, Andre, maybe you're the normal one. They're the weirdos. Mm-hmm. That's another way to flip it around.
Yeah.
Well, we got to finish off here, Mike. What else do you got? Another thought? Because you got some good nuggets here, I think.
Well, one of the things that, especially in what I call my new life, or my new company is that I did a lot of work over the years of transferring family businesses. And I've got a suite of tools and things that I'm developing. I think the next step is I've probably done over 100 of them in my career. And it's probably only in the last 5 years that I've said, hold on, I don't have to do the technical stuff. I'll do the conceptual, the soft side, and it's all HR. It's human resource type work, and I'm not trained in the HR world, but I think I know more than the average accountant.
I think, yes. You mean human interaction?
Yeah,
I'm saying that along the engineering word in the world too.
But there's a way to keep families in harmony, and I'll put it in a farming context. When you look at a typical family transition on a farm, and I guess I'm going to be generalizing here. I'm not going to try and offend, but generally when you look at the vision for the farm and what's going to happen in the future and all the big decisions, that's generally the male, and that's largely cultural as well. But there's a special place in hell if you sell the family farm. But if that's the case, then I look at who's on the other side of that equation. Well, it'd be mom. She wants everybody to get together for Christmas and birthdays and get along and, kumbaya and all that kind of stuff. She's the chief emotional officer, the CEO. So you got a built-in conflict right away, and getting people to identify that. And then that's where my bring in the Colby, start layering in the Colby thing, is it's to help them with their communication. Because generally the men think that telepathy is a form of communication.